Welcome to Talk Law Radio. I'm Todd Marquardt here with Shannon Salmon-Haas on Talk Law Radio, and we're going to be talking about hidden legal blind spots of the Corporate Transparency Act. I didn't tell you about that, but I do have to talk about some boring legal
Okay.
stuff for
You always
businesses.
have a surprise for me.
The federal funding of nonprofits. I know we've talked about that before, but it's still a concern among some in the community. And we're going to be talking about religion and immigration again,
Again.
in a
Yeah.
different context. So, our mission is to help you discover your legal issue blind spots by listening to me talk about the law on the radio.
That's how you do it.
That's right, because God in the beginning had one law: don't eat from the fruit of that tree. Then he gave Moses the 10 Commandments. And now we have municipal, state, and federal lawmakers that won't stop creating new laws that impact you without you knowing it. Before we get started talking about the law, let's begin with prayer. Dear God, thank you for this day. Thank you for all the gifts and blessings that you give to us. Please forgive us for our sins, for our mistakes, for doing the wrong thing or failing to follow your will. Please help us to follow your will more closely. Please help Shannon and I give good information to the listeners about the Corporate Transparency Act, about federal funding for nonprofits, and about religion and immigration enforcement. Help us to do everything we do for the good of your people, for our own good, and for your glory. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Here we go.
Here we go. I thought of you the other day, Todd, of how you always say, won't stop making laws.
Yeah,
Because I got to see, that DSM 5. I think it's called DSM 5. It's the book that is the list of all the psychiatric disorders.
yeah.
I have a friend that is a psychiatrist,
Mm-hmm.
and I always wanted to see that book. I find it fascinating, what they call everything.
Right,
And they said that when it first came out, it was like that, and now it's like that.
right.
And I couldn't
Do
wait to tell you about
do you
that.
think that humanity keeps on progressively getting more mentally ill, or do you think that,
We just identify it more and have different varieties.
people are making it up?
I think that's a great topic for our next discussion,
Yeah, that's not on the agenda
but
for
that's a good
today's
one.
show. So I wanted to talk about what happened last Saturday.
Okay.
I was out of town. I
Yeah.
went to Orlando,
Yeah, tell me.
Florida, to watch my dad play saxophone at
Yeah.
the Hard Rock Cafe.
I liked his outfit. He's so stylish.
He is, yeah. That's where I get it from. And
Mark laughed. I want it
brought
noted that Mark
yes, I
laughed.
brought Lexi a bandana.
Yeah.
It says Hard Rock Cafe on it, but you can't tell because it's too small. I
Oh,
thought she was a small dog, but
yeah.
apparently she's a medium
She's
dog,
probably a medium. Yeah.
Yeah.
Small, they mean like she can fit in your briefcase
like
small.
Chiquita.
Yeah. Well, even Chiquita's a medium.
Oh, really?
She's not like I'm going to carry her around
Really?
in a little doggy purse.
How much do you think she weighs?
Oh, that's a good question. But I know she's not like a tiny, carry
Mhm,
her around in
mhm.
a little
Yeah.
fancy bag.
I had a Chihuahua that was very petite. She was a single birth. What do you call that? She was an only child
Okay.
from her mother. She wasn't like part of a litter.
Uh-huh.
And her mom was very small. Well, not as small as she was. The dog I'm talking about, her name was Marley. And she was very tiny. And she was always shaking, kind of
Yeah.
like Chiquita
Yeah,
does.
yeah.
But she was the smartest one. At one time, I had 5 Chihuahuas, and she was the smartest one. She was the only one
Why?
that wouldn't.
Why would anyone do such a thing?
She was the only one that wouldn't go potty in the house.
Uh-huh.
So we had this rule that if the Chihuahuas were inside, they had to sit with you.
Uh-huh.
Who's responsible for these Chihuahuas?
Uh-huh.
You know, or they had to be outside. They were inside dogs, but they had to be supervised
Uh-huh.
because their brain typically is about the size of a grape. Did you know that?
No, I didn't know
And
that.
so I think that's why they're
I'm
so
stuck
difficult.
on why would anyone want 5 chihuahuas?
Well, just like God started with one law,
You started with one chihuahua?
I did start with one Chihuahua. He was born in a town outside of Lubbock, Texas. And when Chris and I went to go visit him to see him as a puppy, he bit my nose and gave me a bloody nose.
Oh no.
And so
That could be really dangerous.
that's how I knew I wanted him.
Uh-huh.
So we named him Killer.
Uh-huh.
And so I felt bad that he was alone. And just like God,
Uh-huh.
he wanted Adam to have a helper, and so God made Eve. So a year or two later, we got Honey. She was a blonde, long-haired Chihuahua. We got her in Las Cruces, New Mexico, and Killer and Honey got married.
They got along?
They loved each other dearly,
Huh.
and they had 3 litters of puppies. The first litter, for whatever reason, did not survive, and it was very traumatizing. The second litter was Marley, and I wanted to name her Hope because to me that was a miracle that Honey gave birth to a live puppy and survived the weaning period.
I'm surprised they got together because he sounds like
that cartoon where the dog is like chasing women and always whistling. That was Killer.
Uh-huh.
He was a ladies' man.
Uh-huh. Huh.
And so we had a third litter, and that was MJ and Spidey. And MJ was a giant. She was what they call a deerhead Chihuahua.
Uh-huh.
And she was the biggest one, bigger than Mom and Dad.
Huh.
And I gave her to my niece so that she would get rid of her cat.
Uh-huh.
Because I'm allergic to cats, and I didn't want to go over to my brother's house and suffer from my allergies. And so MJ went there. Spidey stayed with us. But that wasn't the end of the story. My sister-in-law worked managing an apartment complex, and somebody brought her this lost Chihuahua. Eddie was white and had brown spots, and so we named him after that dog on the Frasier show.
Oh, okay.
Because he looked, I know it's not the same breed, but he looked like that dog.
Yeah. And that dog's name was Eddie?
Yes, from Frasier. You should watch it. It's about a radio show.
No, I love Frasier, but I just couldn't remember the name of the dog.
Yeah, so that's a long-winded explanation of my 5 Chihuahuas. They've all passed. They've all gone over the Rainbow Bridge. So now we have to talk about...
That was a lot more fun than what we have to talk about. But I think while we were talking that 100 more executive orders were issued.
They may have been, but we're not there yet. I have to talk about the Corporate Transparency Act.
Okay.
So I started talking about the Corporate Transparency Act in 2023.
Right. Because I remember wondering, does this apply to me?
Yes.
And I was thinking, thank you, Todd.
It still does.
Yeah.
So the law was passed even before that, but it became effective. And it has been litigated in the courts whether or not it's constitutional. And so there would be a temporary injunction to stop enforcement of the law. Well, that's all been stopped, and the Financial Crimes Enforcement Network is saying that now we are required to file our beneficial owner reports. And if you don't know what that means, just search Corporate Transparency Act on podcasts or YouTube and look for the Lady Justice and the red, white, and blue logo so that you can hear me talk about it.
You did a lot of good stuff on it.
Yeah, and I did a seminar on it. So
I bet a lot of people still don't know about it, though.
They don't. There's a lot of myths about it, and the myth right now is that you don't have to file because of these court cases and about the constitutionality of it. But I get a newsletter from the Financial Crimes Enforcement Network, which is a subdivision of the Treasury Department. And I got an email that says, on again, off again, on again. Now you're required to file.
Wow.
And so there's due dates that have changed because they're giving people time to be confused about these court orders.
Yeah.
If you need help understanding how to file with the Corporate Transparency Act, you can go to the Financial Crimes Enforcement Network website. It'll probably take you 8 hours to read everything on that website. I
Right.
know because I did it.
Right.
And I'm a lawyer and I sort of understand what they're talking about.
From the beginning.
They
You've
tried,
been following the history
yes,
from
they
when it
tried to
first
make
started.
it very easy. There's frequently asked questions. There's a lot of information there to help you. But the people that come to my law office and they say, I want your help with this, they say, I don't want to spend 8 hours on the
Right.
Financial Crimes Enforcement Network website. My philosophy on this is they should have named it anything else than Financial Crimes Enforcement Network, because who would willingly sign up for stuff on a website called Financial Crimes?
Yeah, I had many thoughts about that name as well, but I didn't want to say them out loud because I don't want to tick them off. They sound
Right. No.
they sound like,
Well, I'm trying to help people
but they really could have a better name.
trying to help people be in compliance. I just gripe about it the whole time.
Yeah.
They could have called it beneficial owner reporting,
Okay, yeah.
because that's the form that you fill out anyway. I try and make it easy for people that want my help. I have a form that they can fill out and I can help them. But the first question is always, does this apply to me? And the answer is yes, unless there's an exception.
Yeah.
And I only have 52 seconds to talk about the exceptions, so I'm not going to talk about them.
Okay.
We'll talk about it online or at my law office. So you can go to marquardtlawfirm.com and chat with a representative there. Let them know whether or not you have this concern, or call your lawyer or do this yourself. The most important thing you need to do is something.
Right.
Call somebody or do something, because there are penalties, including fines and jail time if you don't. We're going to skip over to the next segment after our break. So stay tuned for religion and immigration enforcement and federal funding of nonprofits. Welcome to Talk Law Radio. I'm Todd Marquardt with Shannon Salmon-Haas, San Antonio. Sorry, I got the order wrong on that. Shannon San Antonio Salmon-Haas. Find her on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook. Where else?
I'm on the YouTube, baby.
YouTube? Have you been posting on YouTube?
No, not really. Just like one or two.
Okay.
When I think they're good, I try to put them on YouTube.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Most of your stuff, all the bad stuff, is on Instagram.
Well, I'm trying to figure this stuff out. I mean, I'm not a.
I say
know.
just post it.
Yeah, I like your attitude. Yeah.
Because I did that video of my dad at the Hard Rock Cafe,
Yeah.
and I didn't realize that he needed a microphone.
It came out good though. You
Well,
fixed it a little.
I tried to lean in so that it would pick him up a little bit more, and then I used Adobe to brighten up the sound a little bit.
Yeah, it was good.
Thank you. But it wasn't perfect. So that's what I'm saying is I still posted it.
Yeah. No, I like your
'cause
attitude.
I needed the content out there.
I listen to you a lot more than you realize, probably.
Okay.
'Cause, like, I'll hear your voice, like, just move on.
Oh, good.
Yeah. You're very helpful.
I'm like your Jiminy Cricket
Yes.
of video making.
Yes, you are.
In this segment, we're going to talk about federal funding. Has your nonprofit been affected? Shannon and I have been debating this all week. I know it's just Wednesday, but it feels like we've been debating this for a whole week already.
Yeah.
I think that nonprofits have not been affected because their funding is only paused by the executive order and the memos or whatever. But Shannon believes that people have been affected.
Right.
So this is your soapbox. Get on it. Tell me what you know.
Okay. Well, nobody knows things for sure. You know, this is all new and evolving every minute. But at the very least, can we agree that it's very reckless to stop things that people rely on? Like there's a certain way. You and I have been debating also whether there is waste in the government. Can I just concede the point that there is waste in the government? I mean, because that's a separate conversation. You can think that and not think that this is the way to address that problem.
Right.
You know what I mean? Even if it was just the memo and then it was rescinded 20 minutes later, you still create ripples where now you have donors that are feeling uneasy, recipients that don't know if they're going to get what they were coming to rely on. I know you have certain policy philosophies. You know, people need to pull themselves up by their bootstraps, or, you know, whatever Reagan would say at this moment, I know would be what you would put on a t-shirt, you know. So I respect you for that. You know, we've always like been able to still talk, but and respectfully disagree, you know. But I think any reasonable person would have to say there's a way to do it, and this didn't appear to be the way because it just creates chaos. Does that make sense?
It does make sense. I understand how things the government says can create uncertainty because that's what happens with the stock market too.
Right. Yes.
And with taxes, if they say we're going to raise taxes, they don't even have to actually raise taxes to cause an effect in the market.
Right. So maybe it was a tactic. Maybe they're just, you know, maybe the chainsaw was too heavy at the moment and they lost the grip or something. I don't know. I really have no idea.
Well, I have a surprise for you.
Tell me.
I did find
tell me.
some news of people that said that they were actually affected by the federal funding freeze. And the New York Times put out I don't know if it was an actual news article in their paper or if they just did this online, asking for feedback from nonprofits. Please fill out this form. Tell us about your nonprofit and how you've been affected. And you actually suggested that 2 or 3 days ago that we do that. But we don't have time for that.
Okay.
The New York Times has a much bigger pool of people that are being affected or that read their paper.
Okay.
So one of the things that you brought up is the chaos that's been caused. Well, there was an article written in the New York Times called by the Upshot staff. I don't know what that is, but which federal programs are under scrutiny? The budget office named 2,600 programs.
Okay.
So these are just programs that have to answer the question, are they funding programs related to DEI or with the Green New Deal?
Okay.
But to your point, they're probably causing chaos with all of them because their funding is being paused. And we don't know how often they need to get checks from the government, right? I mean, not all of their funding comes from the federal government. I don't think you can be a 501c3 if you don't get money from the public.
Okay. And just all right.
So they're I don't think they're out of business, but they probably are scared,
Okay.
which is what you were saying.
Yeah, a lot of fear,
Right.
uncertainty.
So there was an article that says some nonprofits say they still can't access federal funds. This was written by NBC. In this article, there was a board president of a West Virginia nonprofit group that said they've been waiting for federal funds to be deposited into its account. So that the pause, affected them, and they do good things. I'll concede that. The Associated Press put out an article about another nonprofit. There was a CEO that said that they focus on rural coal miners and that their grants were under review. So again, it's not a total denial of their federal funds. I'm sure that there are some of these nonprofits that are going to be cut off because they are scams. Not all of them, but I think that there are probably some scams out there. So how do you respond to my long-winded monologue?
I guess my answer is the same. I think in anything this big, the federal government is huge, right? I'm sure you could find fraud and waste. I can definitely concede
Yeah.
that point. I was blissfully unaware until all of this happened that federal workers had somehow become public enemy number one. I was not aware of
That's
that.
a different issue.
I am kind of switching the issue, but I think my main point is that there are people that are getting affected that probably voted a certain way. And I don't think that we expected all these ripple effects. For example, a farmer in the Midwest that all his crops were being used by USAID to go overseas, for part of that. So now his crops are sitting there and he has no place to. There's just a lot of unintended consequences. And I could maybe even get on board with everybody's it's a good-hearted thing, to want small government, but it's just that where we're at right now, these things all work together in a very intricate way. So you don't just, take these hatchets to things as much as you would want to.
Well,
everything's much more intertwined than people realize.
Here's something that might come of all of this. Maybe the church will step in.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, no, it's going to be the good people that are going to bear the brunt of this. Yes. So we're going to do plate sales and,
And we'll have lower taxes. And so we'll be able to give more of our hard-earned money to the church.
I don't know how to counter that, but there's something really wrong in that statement. You had texted that to me earlier, and I can't put my finger on that, but I don't like that.
Well,
but yes, of course, I would.
One way that the government could encourage us to give more to nonprofits is to bring back itemized deductions for charitable giving.
Tell me all about that. I want to know all
Well,
about
this
that.
is a side issue, but when they raise the standard deduction to $12,000 or more, then you really can't itemize your charitable deductions unless you exceed that. So you have to really be giving a lot, and you can't deduct everything unless you have a very high income.
See, this is not, you know what I really hate? I hate that if I voice some opposition, I'm going to be like you guys have really been trained to just tune me out, oh, she's a loony left. It's not that, I promise. That's the president. I'm on board, like I'm an American, like let's support our president, but if I raise a valid concern, I think the whole country is just in this knee-jerk reaction of like we're so divided, just left and right. Does that make sense?
Well,
Because you know why I say that, Todd? Because I love your idea. I love what you just said right now. And if you were president, I think that's how you would approach it. And it would be small, incremental policy changes that would lead to your
well,
stated
I
goal,
just,
which is a valuable
yeah,
goal.
I just had a thought of us running on the same ticket, but your name is too long. Marquardt and San Antonio Salmon-Haas.
Right, right.
I think it's funny that I always say San Antonio in
Oh,
your
I think
name,
I do too. Yes,
but
I laugh
that's
every
not
time.
really in her name. That's just part of her social media presence.
Yeah, I don't know why I did that. I just love San Antonio. I should be South Texas though,
Well,
because I
I
love
thought
South
you did
Texas.
it because you were working for the government when you established those
Good
accounts.
point. Right. I was a little. I went back and forth on whether to put my full name. It's scary to be out there. It's a.
I figured they told you not to.
Oh yeah, no, you can't be. Yeah, you can't be all out there with. Yeah,
Right, saying all this controversial stuff.
like here's my outfit.
Right, outfit of the day and my soup.
So what are we running? Are we going to run as libertarians, or what are we going to do?
I think we'll have to leave that to the audience to wonder about. We have to take a break.
Oh.
Stay tuned. Welcome to Talk Law Radio. I'm Todd Marquardt with Shannon Salmon-Haas, San Antonio. Now I can't get it right. Now that I've got it wrong in my head, I can't say it right. Shannon San Antonio Salmon-Haas.
You know I'm gonna change it, right?
Right.
I am.
So find her on Instagram, on Reels, on Facebook, on TikTok. Watch her outfit of the day, watch her make soup, and you'll feel all cozy.
Yeah, you will, and you won't
And-
have to think about the news at all.
Well, you're like the cultural community correspondent for the show.
The CCC.
Yeah. Tell us about what you're going to be doing on Thursday.
Oh, right. So there's a local nonprofit that is.
Okay, stop there.
Okay.
We have to do Sinners and Saints.
Oh, that's right.
Hopefully we can hear when the music ends. Okay, so this is the Sinners and Saints segment, and I know we were just talking about something totally unrelated. We'll come back to that
No,
at
we
the
won't.
end of the show. Yeah, I have it in my notes. I'm
Okay.
sorry, I just got
No.
ahead of myself.
No worries.
But today's sinner is Elizabeth Holmes. She was convicted of fraud, and she filed an appeal in the Ninth Circuit, I think, and her appeal was denied. Did you hear about this case?
I did, and then I read her. She did a interview recently with People magazine,
Mm-hmm.
and I read the whole interview.
Okay. Well, what did she say that she didn't do?
I found a quote from her very fascinating. She said, trying and failing is not criminal.
Okay. Well, what she did is she invented some blood test, right?
Well, that's the whole issue.
And then she enticed investors to invest millions of dollars into her company to create this blood test.
I think that's the whole problem, that she never really did invent the blood test. There never was a blood test. It never worked. Ever.
Right.
And they knew
And
that.
she's just saying they knew that, but I tried.
Yeah. I mean, her version, isn't that a fascinating quote?
It is, but it's all in the details of,
Right.
You have to do things in a certain way when you entice investors. You have to
Right.
give them
Right.
information.
So we don't know. She was convicted. So some jurors found that there was enough evidence.
Right.
But I think she is right about her point. You don't want to stifle creativity and have people scared to.
Right. But there's a line between trying and failing and committing crime.
Right. You maybe could make the argument that for her to say that kind of dismisses all the people that were hurt. Does that make sense?
Right.
If in her head she's still like, look, I really tried to do something great and it just didn't work.
Yeah, so I'm sure there was evidence that the jurors heard, and they were convinced by the prosecutor that she did meet the elements of the crime of fraud or whatever.
Right, exactly.
So we don't have to talk about her all day unless you have something else you want to say about her or that case.
Well, that's about all I have to say.
That's a hidden legal issue blind spot. So if you are wanting to invent something and you want to entice investors to invest in your company and your idea, you need to have lots of lawyers and accountants giving you advice about what you can and cannot say, promises that you can and cannot give. Or you might be prosecuted for fraud. So that's my hidden legal issue blind spot for the Sinners and Saints.
I felt bad for the kids. She's got 2 kids. So they come and see her.
Right.
She gets like a couple hours.
She took the risk, to go out there and entice these millionaires. You can't get on a millionaire's bad side because they will file lawsuits against you.
Oh, is that
Right?
what happened?
Well, I'm just imagining how upset they would be if they lost all that money.
Yeah. Yeah, I hear you.
So they're going to hold your feet to the fire and say, hey, this is what you promised me, and I don't think that you actually did what you said you did.
Yeah.
So you have to be careful if you have little kids.
Yeah,
Right.
I guess she had them later because they're real little.
I don't know. Let's go back to that court case about the federal funding freeze.
Okay.
There were a couple of different cases. Uh, there was one about the gosh, where is it? The National Council of Nonprofits versus Office of Management and Budget. They wanted to stop the executive order from being enforced to freeze the federal funds.
Yeah.
And then there was also a New York case that was actually filed somewhere else.
Yeah. Seemed like Maryland.
Yeah, Rhode Island.
Mm.
Everybody forgets Rhode Island exists.
Yeah.
It's way up there.
Yeah.
Far away from Texas. So it was a similar case where they requested a temporary injunction to stop the executive branch from enforcing these
Right.
executive orders from freezing federal funds for nonprofits. Tell us more. What do you have there?
Well, the court said our order is clear and unambiguous. You can almost hear the testiness in their voice, can't you?
So this is a new order for enforcing their previous order.
This is an order that says we were clear. We don't want any we have prohibited all pauses or freezes in the obligations or disbursements. You are not to do that.
Right.
We were clear.
And so your concern is that the executive branch is defying the judicial branch.
They have, and that's what this order
Well,
says.
see, but I don't think it's defiance. I think it's just that they haven't gotten around to it.
You
yet.
know, you know who would disagree with you? Chief Judge John J. McConnell Jr.
Right. I'm sure they heard evidence.
in the United States District Court of the District of Rhode Island on February 10th, 2025 said, our order was clear and
Right.
unambiguous.
Yeah. Well,
So-
I don't actually know what's going on in the heads of President Trump and the executive branch. There's 3 branches. They all have to do their own part. And so when can you think of another circumstance in U.S. history when there was a tussle between the judicial and the executive branch?
When you first said that, I thought of Marbury versus Madison.
Which is like the first court case you learn when you go to law school.
Right. And if you make it through that, they let
And
you
I think
stay.
it has a similar fact pattern in there, but tell us what else you found.
Well, I did reread that case as well. So if you want to talk about that, I think that's pertinent. But one of my biggest shocks that I've gotten recently, it was actually Abraham Lincoln, the hero, the icon.
That's
Abraham Lincoln. He said to this Justice Taney, it was in this case called Ex parte Merryman,
Mm-hmm.
like that, like Mary, like Merry man. So he said to this judge, I don't have to listen to you because we're at war. This is an emergency,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm not going to listen to the judicial branch.
Wow.
And it really rewrote my image of him. You know, I
You were disappointed.
I was a little disappointed. I mean, I've been to the Lincoln Memorial. You know, I see the pennies.
Yeah.
If you were to ask me the gold standard of what a president should be, it would be Abraham Lincoln, right?
Right. Someday he'll be standing next to the Ronald Reagan Memorial.
Yeah. I saw the new one, by the way. Did I tell you
the
already?
new movie.
Yeah.
Yeah. With Dennis Quaid.
Yeah, I saw it.
How did you react?
I watched it, which says a lot for me because I can't make it through most movies these days.
Okay.
But it was entertaining and it moved along pretty well. Yeah.
Yeah, it was just interesting how they focused on the Cold War. It was like the only thing that was the theme of the movie, I thought.
Yeah. It was they painted with a really broad brush. You know, he
Mhm.
was almost cartoonish, which is fine because I want to be inspired again. I want to, feel that,
Right.
we can believe in this,
Yeah,
I miss that.
the grin, the smirk.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a little cartoonish.
Yes. Yes. I'm glad we
But
agreed.
but maybe Ronald Reagan was really like that.
Maybe, but I would have liked to have seen more well-rounded of a character. Show me your struggle. They just showed him winning, like
Mhm,
constantly,
mhm.
just the hero side of
Well,
him.
he did get attacked for Iran Contra, and they thought he was going to be impeached for sending, secret forces over there.
Right, but I mean, the way they handled it in the movie, it was kind of two-dimensional. He was just there was never anything negative, and real
Mhm.
characters are complex. So
Right.
he was not a complex character, but I did enjoy it, and I'm really glad you
Cool.
suggested that. And it made me pine for the days of Reagan, if you can believe that.
Yeah,
If he was
yeah.
here now, I'd be very happy.
Well, he was not always um, bringing all the nation together. He did have a lot of good quotes, but during that movie, they showed protests
Yeah. Do you
and
think that's when it started, our divided politics
nasty, ugly
today?
signs about him.
Yeah.
I don't. I was only a baby when he was president, so I don't know when it started.
Yeah.
The In the old days, congressmen used to fight with canes on the House floor.
Good point. Good point. I think it was Ezra Klein, though, that said this amazing quote recently. We don't even have a legislative branch right now. We need to stop referring to that as a separate thing, as if it exists like it did in 1970. We don't have that right now. We have two parties.
Oh, well, we got to stop there, Shannon. That's a whole nother conversation. Stay tuned. Welcome back to Talk Law Radio. I'm Todd Marquardt with Shannon
Roberta.
San Antonio Salmon-Haas. And because this is the fourth segment, this is our legacy segment.
And now it's time for the Talk Law Radio Legacy Spotlight. What's your legacy? Sponsored by Marquardt Law Firm.
Marquardt Law Firm sponsors the show, and because Marquardt Law Firm focuses on last wills, living trusts, and tax-protected inheritance plans, we like to talk about legacy.
Oh.
Singing my life with his words, killing me softly with his song, killing me softly with his song, telling my whole life.
Yeah.
With his words, killing me softly.
So that's not the Fugees.
No.
That's Roberta Flack.
Yeah. Good
So
song.
she passed away recently, and this is part of her legacy.
Yeah.
She performed that song in 1973, and she won a Grammy for Record of the Year and Best Female Pop Vocal Performance.
Yeah. I think I read she was 88.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I think that's a pretty phenomenal legacy. She won those awards. People remember her for that.
That song really resonated with a lot of people. There's something really magical about that song.
Really?
Mhm.
I only listened to the Fugees version before today.
Oh, yeah.
So look up Roberta Flack on YouTube and search for Killing Me Softly. It's a great song.
Yeah.
I thought you'd really like that we incorporated it into the show.
I did.
Okay.
Did my face not express
Well,
that?
You were all passionate about how bad it was for President Lincoln to challenge Justice Taney way back in 1857,
Yeah.
or was it 1861? It was 1861. And then I play this old song that makes you just want to sway.
Uh-huh.
And so I feel like it deflated your passion
Well,
for
good.
stopping the executive branch from.
I need to be deflated. Yeah. Yeah. I need to calm down.
So in addition to the Roberta Flack, I also wanted to give you a chance to talk about the movie on Thursday,
Oh, okay. Thanks.
because this is legacy-ish,
Okay.
talking about that movie and the charity that's going to benefit from the premiere. So just tell us
Oh.
what you know.
Well, you told everything already.
No, you can tell them the what and the how.
Well, it's tomorrow night, and so maybe I can put a link somewhere, maybe on the Facebook, but there's a tiny home village in town called Town Twin Village, and they are doing amazing work where they're transforming lives. And so if I know you have a little bit of a conservative slant, so I would want everyone to know that these are people that it's kind of like you've been screened already.
Well-
if you're in this receiving this help, you're not using alcohol, you're not using drugs. It's not somebody that is thinking, oh, I'm just going to not work and
Mhm.
live off of somebody else. So they have to contribute. And I promise you, if you went over there and took a tour, you would just be bawling at the beauty of the way they are transforming lives over there. And it's small, it's not a huge operation,
Mhm.
but they will, they're very open, and you would just feel it the minute you walk in that
So
this
it's
is,
like a neighborhood
it
of
is.
homes.
Yes, it is a neighborhood.
And people without a home can move in.
Yes, they move in, and I'm probably not doing a good job of explaining it, but it's people that really would not be working anyway, if that makes any sense.
I think there's an age.
Yeah, there's an age limit, and there were people with disabilities, so they have a lot of requirements that have to be met. And then in addition to that, they still work with the Texas Workforce Commission. So if they are able to work, then they'll be doing that.
They can be greeters at Walmart or something like that.
I don't know what would be
Okay.
done, but it's definitely not something that, I mean, I think any one of your listeners would just be overwhelmed with emotion at the power of community and helping others. It's a very beautiful place. Go tour and you'll just feel it instantly. So they're having this
Well,
movie,
say the name of the place again.
Town Twin Village, and they're over there on Dietrich Road, and town has an E on the end of it. And so everybody is very uneasy about this loss of federal funding. You know, everybody's on
Mhm.
edge. So they're super excited because this is something, you know, completely private where they're going to be able to get some funds from this movie. I think it's Baldwin, one of the Baldwins.
Yeah.
And, you know, there were some pretty big stars in this movie, and half of the proceeds are going to be going to them and other nonprofits like that. So everybody's very, very excited about it. And the premiere is tomorrow night. The Town Twin Village gets to premiere at one day earlier than the national
okay.
premiere.
And so this is a movie called
No Address.
No Address.
Yeah,
And anybody can go.
Yeah,
if they
absolutely.
get a ticket.
right. It's in town.
And I think you can get a ticket online
Correct.
if you just search for Town Twin Village, No Address.
Yeah, that is correct. That's how I've been. Yeah, you can just Google that and it'll come up. But bigger than that, you know, bigger than this one event, you find out what they're doing and get involved and
Mhm.
support this amazing organization.
Cool. And so how did you become so passionate about people with no address?
I've been homeless before. Is that the
That would
what you were getting
that
at?
would raise the level of passion. Yes.
Yeah. So I know that it can happen to anyone because I didn't, you know, I wasn't born thinking, wow, gee, I
Mhm.
really would love to not have a permanent home someday,
Right.
you know, and I wasn't.
Well, let me play devil's advocate now. I've heard the opinion out there, not mine, from other people, just talking on the street with the people.
Yeah.
They say homeless people choose to be homeless.
Well, I have heard that. I've heard that before.
Otherwise, they would go to Haven for Hope or
Right.
the Salvation Army or someplace.
I think there are probably, if you make a broad statement like that, I bet you could go out and find some people that choose.
But not all of them.
And then even if they're making that choice, if there's, you know, an addiction problem or a mental illness that is fueling that choice, you know, how can you really say? It's kind of hard to believe somebody would literally want to
Mhm.
sleep on a street when they could
Right.
have a nice bed, you
Right.
know?
Well, and you know, Will Smith in that movie, Pursuit of Happiness, he didn't want to be living on the street. Did you ever see the movie?
You know, I didn't.
Oh, it's
I-
terrific.
I have seen that scene for some reason. I have in my head, he had his little boy and
Mhm.
they found a little door, a stairwell, and he
Yeah.
had to tell his son, you know, some little
Yeah,
story.
they
you know.
spent the night in a restroom.
Yeah.
Just like a public restroom, but you could go inside and lock the door,
Right.
and there would be people banging on it.
Yeah.
He would just try and cuddle with his son. But
Right.
there's more to it. I won't spoil the movie for you because you really do need to see it.
That's too sad. I don't want to see sad things. There's too much. I just want light
Okay.
stuff.
Okay.
I went over to Haven for Hope. Did you know that was where I had texted you that picture from? I was at Haven for Hope.
No.
You know, there were people there with their work uniform on, you know, where you could tell that they had a minimum wage job, but they
Oh.
were there.
Right.
Does that make sense?
That was a place for them to stay.
Right. And so thank God for them. They're doing amazing work. And
Right. And at Haven, they can give you some job training and some counseling and some social work.
I'm not in on all the
I
details.
think they do.
My understanding is that if you want to, yeah, they have everything for you and they can really help you turn your life around. And then the people that work there have a lived experience. So
Mhm.
they really are not going to judge you and they understand.
So go see the movie No Address with one of the Baldwins.
I think.
Well, there's so many of them. And they're all good.
It doesn't
actors.
really matter anyway. The lesser Baldwin.
Well, tell us about how it is. I'm not going to get to go see it tomorrow, but you are. So when we meet again, maybe a week from Saturday, maybe we'll get to talk about it.
Yeah.
But the movie's going to keep playing. I mean, you're just going to see the premiere.
Right.
So people can still go after that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. This is just like an event for the
For the twin twin
you know, I
village.
keep doing that too. It's town twin village. But for some reason in my head I keep putting the twin first.
Yeah, and it's a local organization that put it together. It's funded and worked and supported probably mostly by locals. I'm just generalizing, but
And-
that's how you heard about it.
And then IKEA did go build their tiny home, the prototype, the very first one. We have the only one that
Okay.
they're thinking of launching the tiny home, so they donated one, and we have the only one like in the whole country by IKEA. It was so cute.
So the rest of the homes are
They're
built by hand?
yes, they're tiny homes, but that IKEA one really, you could tell that was the IKEA one. It was very pretty.
I see a lot of projects like that on my Facebook feed
Really?
where people make a small home. They have these Legos that are like bricks,
Uh-huh.
but they fit like Legos. And
For-
so you could build a home structure very quickly.
For a real house to live in.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Well, I don't trust everything I see on Facebook, but it looked like it to me.
Yeah, I bet that's the wave of the future. We're probably going to be living in tiny
Legos.
homes. No, tiny homes.
Built with wood beams or Lego bricks. Well, that's the end of the show, Shannon.
Oh, I had so much fun.
I did too.
Like usual.
Yeah. Can you remember everything that we talked about?
All I remember is chihuahuas.
Chihuahuas, federal funding freeze, enforcing government or judicial orders. We forgot to talk about religion and immigration enforcement. So we'll have to pick up there later because free exercise of religion is very important to me. Enforcing the immigration laws is important to this president. And so we'll have to talk about it later.
Okay, I can't wait.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Goodbye.